It is time for DC Current, presented by LABI. We are welcoming back to the show Congressman Troy Carter. Congressman Carter, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Doing very well as well. We've got a lot of ground to cover today, as you were traveling during this segment last week. So, do you mind if we start by rewinding the clock back to last week? I got to start there because I got a number of listeners emailed me, direct messaged me, contacted me, asking me to ask you a very direct question about a bill that you helped introduce. This is the
Happy
bill.
to do it.
Yeah. This is a bill that involves terminating Secret Service protection. Would you mind explaining the bill itself and where there might be some miscommunication on it and your reason for supporting it?
I am so happy that the question is asked because, unfortunately, there is a great deal of misinformation on the bill, and I am ready to answer anyone's question to clarify. The bill, H.R. 8081, makes it clear that anyone that is eligible for Secret Service protection, anyone, that means cabinet secretaries, that means Speaker of the House, that means anyone that is eligible for Secret Service protection, and it's a quite lengthy list of people who are, if they are convicted and sentenced, if they are sitting in a jail cell, that the transfer of who's responsible for their protection transfers from Secret Service to the Bureau of Prisons. From a logistical standpoint, could you imagine if Speaker Pelosi or Hillary Clinton or anyone else, George Bush, or anyone else had been convicted and sentenced? Imagine the logistics and the drain on the finance to have a Secret Service detail posted outside of a prison cell for whatever amount of years. It's a matter of fiscal responsibility and logistics. It doesn't say that they lose security. It doesn't take away the Secret Service detail of any president or former president, be it Barack Obama or Donald Trump. It merely says if a person is in a prison cell, that the Bureau of Prisons will provide for their protective custody and not Secret Service. Some have suggested that this was an attempt to take away former President Trump's detail. Absolutely incorrect. Absolutely reckless reporting for Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'll tell you who said it. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who oftentimes likes to have the crash and burn sensation of division. And I have lived a life of just the opposite, of inclusion and unity. This bill does nothing more than regulate who will then be in charge of a person in jail, not Secret Service, but Bureau of Prisons.
The sentenced part, I think, is the part that got missed or overlooked.
It was ignored completely. It was ignored completely, sir. And that was a part of the misinformation that people often use to try to draw and cause divisions. And that's what's hurt America, because we spend so much time trying to divide. And if anyone had read the bill in totality, or even the summary, you would see clearly that it says you have to be in jail, in a cell. So that would not have impacted the vice president, or anybody else, or any cabinet secretary, as long as they were not physically in a jail cell.
Yeah, which then the follow-up question would be to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Do you know something we don't about sentencing?
I'd love to go into that a little deeper.
No, you wouldn't.
But as always, what I love about coming on your show is we address the tough questions unfettered, and while you are a gentleman and fair, I appreciate the fact that we have the ability to always address issues head up, head on, unfettered, unfiltered, and I will always make myself available to answer any question that you have, however tough it may appear, and I appreciate your journalistic honesty.
Well, I appreciate that. Congressman Troy Carter with us. This is DC Current, presented by LABI. Let's move from there, and it's not that far of a pivot. Can we talk about the hearings going on following the assassination attempt and your level of participation and or takeaways?
Yeah, well, we are going to, in just about 20 minutes, we're going to be in committee to discuss these things. And I'll tell you, one of the things that gives me grave concern is we had a former president of the United States of America and a candidate to be president again. And I think Secret Service failed. I think they failed in their duty to protect our former president. Listen, we don't have to agree philosophically. We don't have to agree politically to still respect the office and respect the necessity to protect our leaders. And violence has no place in political discourse. Whether we agree or disagree, it is totally unacceptable for people to act out violently because you disagree with a person's philosophy or a person's politics or any other reason. Listen, we are a civilized nation, and we're supposed to deal with our differences via conversation and action, but not violent action. So I want to know who dropped the ball, who didn't check that other roof, and why? And why were we depending on local jurisdictions when you're there on the ground to make sure that our leaders are protected when they make public appearances? It's an unacceptable act to say somebody else was supposed to be watching it. No. It is supposed to be a secure area. It's supposed to be sanitized and protected, be it a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent, or anybody else. Secret Service has a very direct role, and in my estimation, they failed.
We're talking with Congressman Troy Carter. This is DC Current, presented by the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. All right, we do have business to tend to that you've been working on up there on the Hill. Can we talk about, and I know this doesn't affect Baton Rouge, but it does affect the state as a whole, $49.9 million coming back to the city of New Orleans. What's this all about?
Well, this is made possible through the Inflation Reduction Act, IRA. And it's one that really makes a difference because this funding will help us reduce the city's carbon footprint. We talk about making sure that we're kinder to our environment, to make sure that we're doing things to lessen our carbon footprint and to encourage solar and reduction of vehicles and pollutants that go in the air from our various modes of transportation. Well, that's what this climate pollution reduction grant does. It absolutely funds projects and programs that will create more trees being planted in cities, having more solar available to reduce our dependency on the grid. But also, we know in the summer months, we also know when hurricanes come and tornadoes and other weather events come, we find that people tend to suffer more in the after effects of the storm due to power outages than the actual storm itself. We've lost more life due to the after effects of being without power than the actual storm itself. So as you know, a year and a half ago, I invested greatly with our community projects money for community lighthouses to solar power churches, nonprofits, and other organizations where people can go and have access to cold water, food, insulin, dialysis, or just to cool off in the community while they're completely out of power. What this does is it amplifies the ability to have more solar panels used throughout the community to ensure that in the storm people are powered up. And additionally, it more than doubles our Blue Bike program where people are able to use bicycles, e-bikes and the like, as a means of transportation, which greatly reduces our carbon footprint. And the other part that's really cool is if you purchase an e-bike, there's an opportunity for a tax credit that will encourage people to use more bicycles as a mode of transportation, thus reducing our carbon footprint.
We get Congressman.
It's a huge deal for the New Orleans area, but quite frankly, every bit that we do to reduce carbon footprint benefits our entire state and our entire world.
Congressman, and I want to make sure I budget a little bit of time for one more question on the back end after this. But the reforestation part of this, $49.9 million, planting 7,500 trees in underserved neighborhoods over the course of 5 years. How does that map out? I mean, New Orleans is pretty much, it is where it is. It is what it is. How do you go back to, reforesting? What areas will this go?
Well, you got eastern New Orleans that has a tremendous amount of green space that can use reforestation. Mm-hmm. Algiers has a lot of land. Uptown New Orleans, it's spotted. You got to kind of pick it through to get there. But we can certainly. You go to other places, we can certainly do it. You go to other places and you feel the green, and it's so flourishing with beautiful greenery, and we don't have that. We don't have that as much in the city of New Orleans, and not to mention shade, creating shade. The concrete jungles of downtown, we may be limited on what we can do there, but in the communities in eastern New Orleans and Algiers and parts of uptown, there's ample places where we can enjoy greater levels of trees with greenery and providing shade and capturing the carbon. So I think all the way around, you'd be surprised.
Last one before I get you out of here, and I would be remiss if I didn't at least bring it up. The president handed off the baton to the vice president to pick up the campaign for the presidency over the weekend. You tweeted out Joe Biden's legacy stands as a testament to his unparalleled commitment to our nation. As a senator, Joe Biden was a steadfast advocate for civil rights, voting rights, and the rule of law. His dedication to these principles was unwavering. That was the extent of your comments, but there's no mention of the vice president within there. Can you expand a little bit on your thoughts of what transpired over the weekend?
Actually, if you read the rest of the statement, my statement goes on.
Oh, look at that. No, yep, you finished. Okay, so Twitter is limited in characters, so you finished in response. But if you would, please, for just...
Yes. So if it goes down, I think we had a link that goes with it, but it says that I thought that the president, who did an incredible job as president, did an incredibly selfless act in passing the torch on to the very capable Vice President Kamala Harris, who is eminently qualified and prepared on day one to be president of the United States. She has my absolute full support and confidence, and I think we're going to have a spirited convention, a spirited series of debates. And I think that that the handing off of the baton, if you will, to Vice President Kamala Harris is one of the greatest and most selfless acts any leader can make. And so, hats off to President Biden, and hats on and salute to our presumptive nominee Kamala Harris.
He is Congressman Troy Carter, joins us about this time, I would say every week. Sometimes he's in the air. We got to work on your flight schedule, Congressman.
I'll tell you what.
It's getting in the way of the segment, sir. We always appreciate you having you on. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, my friend. Have a fantastic week.
You do the same.